mean, that play was developing weeks and weeks in advance. We were just itching to get that off the call sheet, and it just opened up beautifully. I mean, 8 can't be covered, especially on an option route.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome in on this Thursday, the 13th of December. Hope you're doing great. Dennis Fithian with you here. Maize and Blue Reviews. Good afternoon, Michigan football. That's Michigan quarterback J.J. McCarthy on MGO Blue, talking about Captain Ronnie Bell. Can't cover Ronnie Bell on an option route. He's talking about that laser that he threw into Bell for a touchdown in the Big Ten title game afterwards. Maybe one of the best throws. No, not maybe. One of the best throws that J.J. McCarthy made all year long. Yeah, welcome in. Hope everyone's doing well. This is a little bit of the calm before the storm. And I don't know if it's a storm, thinking about the bowl season kicking off Friday, because I've been doing a little bowl prep myself on some of these games, the Wasabi Fenway Bowl and the Jimmy Kimmel Bowl. And I'm looking at these, and even when you do your research, if you're researching all these bowl games and, you know, who's opting out, who's hitting the portal, you know, you look for previews, pretty scant, you know, previews out there. Gambling sites are all about it. Like, they're going to tell you, you know, this team and that team. But other than, you know, just like some real, like, hey, here's a preview of the game, you don't have many of those going on. But, you know, it's, I guess it's it is the official start. If they're starting with the first of 41 coming up on Friday. We do have quite a few things Michigan-wise to get to today. We'll tell you about that in just 1 second. I just want to tell everybody that there's always one. Might be listening to this or watching this for the first time. You say, hey, Michigan football talk, college football talk. You say, yeah. We're here live weekdays at 1 o'clock talking about the latest in Michigan sports. We get to some other things. You know, 99% of the time it's Michigan talk, but, you know, Michigan's even across the country, you know, you're going to talk about Michigan with them being, you know, one of the 4 teams left in the college football playoff. So Michigan's hot right now. Michigan talk is very hot. Before we start the show, I want to recognize the passing of Mississippi State head coach Mike Leach. And Mike Leach was great for the game. You know, I was thinking about it today. You know, Mike Leach, he'd been in the news the last couple days, a heart attack, and, you know, it was a dire situation and everything. And then I learned early this morning that he passed away. But, you know, I never rooted for any Mike Leach team. I never met him. And yet, if you're a college football fan, you know, you have a connection. He was great for the game. He was, Mike Leach, one of a kind, and he will be missed. And as a college football fan, you know, the heart goes out to his family, and condolences for his family and friends, and really for all the college football world. So we all had a connection to Coach Leach. And, you know, he loved college football, and that's what we're going to be doing today, is talking a little college football. And let's get to that. We will, well, that's part of what we're getting to. Let's get it from the top here. Is well, let's see. We got biggest catch of the year. That we will get to, best and or biggest catch of the year. We also have some portal news, and we ask you the question: is this season a great season? No matter what. Now, I'm going to let you think about that for just 1 second, because when you ask a question like that, you say, yeah, duh. I mean, Michigan's won back-to-back in the Big Ten, and you know, what are you talking about? Of course, it's been a great season, and I don't disagree with that. It's been a great season right now. It's been a great 2 seasons, and yet you still have to think about, and it's not me trying to inject anything negative in or anything else. It's just where it is right now with Michigan. Is this a great season no matter what. Well, it has been a great season. It was a little bit like after Michigan beat Ohio State. It's a great season. They're undefeated. They beat Ohio State, and then you heard for the next couple of days, myself included, like Michigan's a lock. They didn't have to win the Big Ten title game, and they were still going to the college football playoff. And it was like, wow, that's they don't even have to win the Big Ten title game, but it was like they want to win the Big Ten title game, and they still could have ended up having a great season. It's like Ohio State. Ohio State has had. You've talked to an Ohio State fan. If they had a disappointing season, certainly they were not only disappointed, distraught. I mean, it was absolute devastation in losing again to Michigan, and then here they are rising from the ashes, and they get another shot, and they end up getting to the college football playoff. And if you're an Ohio State fan, it's weird to think about that. I know, like you're an Ohio State fan, they could still have a great season if they won 2 more games, and that's where you're at with Michigan. Not that it's is it always pass fails? Is it always the greatest or the worst? No, it's not like that. There's some nuance there. There's some people that put it like that. You either win it all or it's a complete disaster. And look, if you live like that, you're always going to be mad. You're always going to be frustrated. You are always going to be disappointed because these things come around once in a generation. I'm talking about a shot to win it all. Maybe it happens a little bit more frequently, and that would be good. But that'd be my advice. Don't in college football. Think about if your team doesn't win it all, then it's a disaster. If you felt like that. Now, having said all that, I get to Michigan's next game. Like last year, it was, you don't want to say great. If it was a great season, the winning the Big Ten for the first time, that was great. And then just getting to the college football, winning in Indianapolis, validated, winning the Big Ten, validated that. And then just getting to the college football playoff, that was a sour taste, but it didn't last very long. And, maybe the day after, like, it was good or as great as it can get without winning it all. But now that we are sitting here and Michigan's back in the same position, I think we can adjust it a little bit because this has been the great season just like last year. And yet when you look at the semifinal this time around, Michigan's a big favorite. And if they would lose that game, you just think, and you probably haven't entertained the thought, and I haven't much either. I haven't thought about it much either. But if you do it for just a second, and you say, wow, Michigan had a great season. They won back-to-back, and then they went to the semifinal as a giant favorite, and then they dropped the game. How are you going to feel? Well, it was a great season that ended up disappointing. Now, if they beat TCU, and they're going to be 14-0, and they advance to the national championship game, I'm ready, at that point to feel like no matter what happens in the championship game, it has been a great season, unless maybe they play Ohio State. Do I have to factor? I guess I do. So I got to put a lot of different ifs and that's on it. So, this has been a great season. And if Michigan advances to the national championship game, I think it doesn't even matter, what happens there in the national championship game, unless Ohio State beats Georgia. And then I'm thinking that, Michigan should win the national championship. They will be, they might not be the favorite, but it's going to be pretty close. But that'll be my feeling where if they beat TCU and they're playing Georgia, they'll be an underdog. Maybe not a gigantic underdog, but are you going to sit there and say of course you want them to and, pour everything into it, but it will still have been a great season. Now that's a lot of talk here. Let me see if I can condense that all down, and then I'll read some of your feedback to see where you are at with it. No matter what happens in the semifinal, as I ask you the question, has this been a great season? My answer, yes. But they have to win the semifinal for it to continue to be a great season, or else it's going to be man, it was a great season and everything that you could possibly want, except that there was a disappointing end in the semifinal. And you don't want to hear that. You don't want to hear that. And remember Jim Harbaugh himself. And I was glad, if you've been listening to this, watching this podcast back to the summer, when Michigan went to Indianapolis for the Big Ten coaches meetings, and Jim Harbaugh stated Michigan's goals. You know, a lot of times coaches get up there and they'll say things like, "Well, we have a lot of team goals, but we're not just going to tell you about them. You know, we're going to keep those." And everybody's like, "Oh, okay, great." You know, but all coaches do that, so everybody's like, "Oh, okay." But that's not what Harbaugh did this year. Harbaugh says, "You know, here are our team goals." Everybody like, wait a second. He's going to tell us your team goals, and the team goals were beat Michigan State. I like that he put that on there. They accomplished that. Goal number 2 was to beat Ohio State. Boom. They did it. Harbaugh said that was one of the team goals. Goal 3, win the Big Ten. Give him another notch in his belt. Michigan did that. Wow. You know, Harbaugh has only stated 4 goals, and Michigan's already accomplished 3. What a job. His 4th goal, he said win the national championship. So Harbaugh, you know, has put it out there. Now, look, I say that, and like I just said, if Michigan beats TCU and they get in there and they go up against Georgia, you know, and they lose in the national championship game, yeah, it's going to be a little bit disappointing, but it's still, I could say, has been a great year. So that's how I feel about it. That's a lot of talk for what it's all about. You can say, just win them all. Let's just have some fun. We got a little time between now and New Year's Eve. What are we sitting here on the 13th? So we've got, 18 days, you know, still to, you know, chew the fat and talk about the semifinal. Here's some other things to think about coming up. We will talk about, I asked you the question and you just think about it. I was able to think about it for a long time. And so I was able to, you know, I think look at it because I looked at it a lot longer. I was able to really pinpoint what I thought was the best Michigan catch. I'm asking you the best and or biggest catch of the year for Michigan this year. I got both a best and a biggest. So I've got 2. You got one and one you're thinking about? I'm interested to hear that. That's coming up. We'll get to some portal news as well. But the first question, which might be tough to get feedback on, is this been a great season no matter what? Let's get to it. And we start with Riley, who says, when I was in school at Michigan, I remember thinking all I wanted was just to beat MSU and OSU, and any season we do that is a great one. You know, Riley, when you say that, I don't know how old everyone is watching this, but when I was growing up, in the 70s and the 80s. It was a great time for Michigan football. But there would be critics of the maize and blue, and one would be my dad, who would always say, yeah, Michigan's great, but Bo only cares about beating Ohio State and winning the Big Ten. So, and he used to always say that. He goes out, he wants to get to the Rose Bowl, and I'm sure he wants to win that, but you know, he can't win the Rose Bowl, and you know, forget trying to win it all. You know, Bo is just focused in on, you know, beating Ohio State and winning the Big Ten. That was and my dad wasn't alone in that. That was what all of the critics said about Michigan, because you know, they won the Big Ten a lot. And then, you know, they would lose their bowl games, and then they didn't win any national championships, although they were really close in 71. Just think about it. And Bo's third year, you know, they lost to Stanford by one little measly point. They could have been the national champs, and they wouldn't have had that narrative following Schembechler, for 21 years. That wouldn't have followed him around. But, the critics were so loud. I mean, they had a point. Usually when, your critics just nail you on one thing constantly, and they usually have a point on that. And they had a point. Like, Bo didn't win any bowl. He didn't win any Rose Bowls, you get where, you remember some of the games and everything else. And I can remember like it was yesterday of Bo finally, winning the Rose Bowl for the first time. He beat Washington, I think. And it was one of the greatest victories in Michigan football history, because it was like what everybody said, man, Bo will never win the Rose Bowl. And then he finally did. And, you felt great. It's weird. You feel great for yourself, but you actually felt better for Bo than you did for yourself. And you felt great for Michigan. And, because you're a fan. And, for me, I don't even know, was I 10 years old or something like that? That's when you're like the biggest fan in the world. And, I felt great for the coach being able to get his first Rose Bowl. But that particular thing, people would continue to use that against Michigan. They only care about beating Ohio State. They only care about winning the Big Ten. And Bo would get asked that a lot. And he'd always say, I can't control winning the national championship because, the media is voting for it. And he can't control the press. So he didn't want to put that as a goal for his players because he couldn't say for sure, but he could have been pretty damn sure. Like he said, look, if we win all of our games, we're going to be the national champs. But Bo would never put that as a goal for his team because it was out of his control. Winning the Big Ten, beating Ohio State was in his control. So we get I think that's still, for if you're older, still in the back of your mind. If you're a loyal follower of the Maize and Blue, like, yeah, it's pretty important. Like, and we saw Harbaugh's first 7 years without, Harbaugh is a great coach. When Harbaugh came in from the pros, you couldn't have asked for anything better. People say there's a home run. This was a grand slam hire. A Michigan man coming back to coach Michigan, a guy who had been to the Super Bowl. No coach with the success in the NFL would go back to college. Plenty did it the other way around, but nobody won. Jim Harbaugh had the success in the NFL and went back to the college. And everybody's like, this is going to be great. It's going to be awesome. And then it was pretty good, except, as you know, there was no wins over Ohio State. I said 7 over 6. Because obviously the 7th year, he did ring the bell. That was last year. And then he rung it again this year. But you just remember the first 6, and then, they didn't play a 6th one. I say technically, I mean, they didn't play a 6th one, so 5. Could you just imagine what it would have been like if there would have been a 6th? You probably don't want to imagine it. But that whole thing, it's about some of that old school thinking creeps in when it's just like, hey, win the Big Ten, beat Ohio State. Go to Indianapolis now. And it was only like last year that I would have been sitting here saying, look, it's not really realistic until Michigan, unless the rules change, and then they have changed, but, more on that as we, continue on with the name, image, and likeness. I said it, certainly 2 years ago. It's like, if you can't recruit even close to Georgia and Alabama and Ohio State and, put Clemson in there, you really can't expect to win a national championship. It's just like the have and have nots. And Michigan, although they were really good and everything else, they just couldn't compete with those teams. But now here they are looking at 2 games. They're a heavy favorite in one. And, I feel like, they can compete with Georgia this year. So I don't know. It changes. Yeah, it's always good to see Ohio State fans distraught. Eddie is not ready to call this a great season yet. Very good season, but not great. And we probably agree. I'm just saying, yeah, I mean, it's a 12-0 beat Ohio State, 13-0 win the Big Ten. It's been a great season. Now, the great season needs to continue by winning their next game, or then you have to say, well, was it really a great season? And then it ended in a real disappointment, however you want to put it. Eddie just nailing it down right here. Very good season, but not yet great. Rob saying, gotta beat TCU. Not a good look if we lost. Yeah, you're right. It won't be a good look. Forget how you think and how you feel. That's a weird thing to ask you. Forget your feelings. But you're right. You do factor in as you take stock in Michigan. Sure, you might feel, oh, this has been great. Look at the 2 years, man. Things are really promising. Oh man, I had so much fun, but they dropped a game, and you'll be like, oh, it was very good, but I guess I can't call it great or a great season. But it ended in a disappointment. However you want to look at it. But nationally, if Michigan were to lose, and even locally, people will hammer Michigan, won't they? Won't they, Rob? People will hammer Jim Harbaugh for if Michigan gets tripped up in the semis. They had a bye to the championship game, and they kicked it. Oh, man. There's still some work to do. It's been great, but there's still some work to do. Mr. Martini, I'm mainly nervous because this next game is a bowl game. That's right. And Harbaugh does not have a good record in bowl games. He won his first one against Florida, and then he hadn't won one since. Lost to Florida State. I don't need to name them all. Bowl games, Mr. Martini. Bowl games are weird. We wait like the season, and then you have to wait this extraordinarily long time, and then you get to watch a bowl game, and the bowl games are weird because mostly you've already nowadays you're either in the college football playoff, and yeah, it'd be nice to win a Rose Bowl or win a Citrus Bowl or whatever it is, but the feeling about going into the offseason on a win in a bowl game and a loss in a bowl game, that bitter taste of a loss in a bowl game lingers for a heck of a long time. Now, last year's, I have to admit, Martini, that the Orange Bowl, it didn't last that long. I was like, yeah, you wanted Michigan to win the Orange Bowl and all of that, but look what they accomplished, and it was easy to move on. The only other time for me, it was easy to move on from a loss was the first time that I ever went to the Rose Bowl, sort of in the 2004 Rose Bowl. Michigan played USC. Matt Leinart, Mike Williams. That's who Pete Carroll had for his USC team. And Michigan lost that game. And I came to realize that, back in the day when it was just like, hey, you just want to get to the Rose Bowl because the Rose Bowl, it's just the iconic setting. Everything's just so perfect, out there. And, I went out there and, I never would have claimed to even had one bit of like for the Beach Boys. But I can remember going out there on January 1st, and seeing the mountains, and it was a little bit chilly, but it started warming up. And I went to this tailgate. It was a Michigan tailgate. And, the sun kind of broke out. And it was a little bit warm. I took my coat off and I sat down on the bleachers and I started playing some kind of Beach Boys song. And I was like, wow, this music's really resonating. This is awesome. And, they lost the game. But afterwards, I went to the beach. And then I went down to San Diego, and it was a lot warmer down there. Then I was out in the ocean. And then I was like, and you forget about it. That's why people that live in California, I understand why they're not big sports fans. Like, if you get the beach and you get the mountains over here and you get the beach over here, who cares? About anything else. You've got that. If you get the weather, you got the mountains, you got the ocean. But, right now, that's not what we're talking about. I hear you, Mr. Martini. I do hear you. Richard is already claiming that this is the best season already. see what Antoine has to say. He's a pretty, he's if people for the first time are going to hear what Antoine has to say, he's a pretty straightforward, like, hey, brass tacks, this is what has to happen. Antoine's saying if I had to pick a team to lose to, it would be Georgia, even though it pains me to hear that. SEC crap. But I couldn't stomach losing to Ohio State or TCU. Antoine, I think, do I have a bell? I'm going to give you some kind of buzzer. I'm with you on that. No, you don't want to lose. You don't want to lose any of these games. I mean, we all start with that. Like, what are you talking about losing? Well, we're just talking about, the bowl season and the semifinal. And is it already a great season? We're doing it. We're just talking. We would like for the game in some ways to be tomorrow so we could just watch the game, or this weekend, we'd be excited to watch the football, but we have time to kill. And, we like talking about Michigan, and we are going to talk about the best and the best and biggest catches of the year straight ahead. But right now we're just asking you, is it a great season no matter what? And Antoine says he couldn't stomach losing to Ohio State or TCU, but he could stomach losing to Georgia. Richard saying, let's all contribute to name, image, and likeness so we continue to be great. Interesting, Richard. I was looking at a breakdown on the Den, the Maize and Blue Review, and one of the alums on there was putting out just how many alumni that Michigan had. And he was putting out the money that would be realized if each alumni just gave $5, I think, a month, or maybe it was for a year. I forgot. But the number was the eye-popping. It was like, wow, look at that. And so, but of course, not every single alum is giving back, and not everybody's throwing into that NIL pot. And there's a lot of people that are like, I don't really have a lot of money to be throwing into any, any football players, and I think a lot of people hope I think mostly, and this is not giving anybody a free pass, and I hear what you're saying, Richard, but I think mostly people think, I want a bunch of rich people just to take care of it. That's what I think most people think. And, you might even have a pretty good, you might be pretty well off, but you still think that. You're like, yeah, I'm not, a millionaire or anything. So no, I'm not, I might not be contributing. I think most people feel like it's for the super wealthy to fund the football program. Rob has indicated that TCU just does not match up well with the blue. In my opinion, the offensive line is going to dominate. Yeah, I agree with that. Georgia is pretty good against the run. TCU is not. What's Michigan like to do? Run the football. We already know Ohio State's not a very good matchup. The way that Michigan punched them in the mouth and it exploded for all those massive plays against the Buckeyes at their place. So, yeah. I was looking at a mock draft today. And while I wasn't surprised that the Jordan Addison, the wide receiver from USC, was mocked in the first round, and I wasn't surprised to see Jackson Smith-Njigba from Ohio State being mocked in the first round, neither of those guys were the first wide receiver in this NFL mock draft that I was looking at. The first NFL receiver taken off the board was none other than Quentin Johnson from TCU. The 6'4" wideout who had 139 yards and a touchdown in the I don't know if he had a touchdown. I'd have to look. 139 yards and was routinely thrown to gigantic plays, and there were a lot of pass interferences that went his way. And they were talking about can go up and get it on anybody in the country. So Michigan dealing with a wide receiver, but I'm with you on that. This question: do we have sources to contribute to yet? I don't know what that means. You'll have to sources for what? Contribute to? Are you talking about name, image, and likeness? Do we have the resources, or do you want to know where you can contribute? Is that what you're talking about? I think so. Sometimes I don't get it. Wade says this team is so young that regardless of the playoffs, there's so much excitement. Yeah. Okay. All right. Dooney done. Definitely a great season no matter what. But last season, I was okay with losing to Georgia. I was just happy to be there. This year, not so much. It's different. Got to make the national championship game. Georgia didn't hurt that bad last year because they were an all-time team. Let's see. Here's the coach telling me to go check out the new recruits. Okay, I'll do that. The next games will all be difficult no matter the point spreads. I do think this team is up for the challenge. The next games will all be difficult no matter what the point spreads. I do think this team is up for the challenge. Yeah, I get it, Troy. Like, the easy way is to just walk into these games and say, yeah, Michigan's a big favorite. They should beat TCU. And then, they'll be probably a little bit of an underdog if they played Ohio State. Probably, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 point underdog. At least as we're sitting here right now, taking on Georgia. You're right. You get to this point, championship games, everything out there, these teams landed on the line. You're right. I'm with you on that. Riley was there from 13 to 17. We never beat OSU and suffered the great 2015 loss to MSU. Ooh, sorry about that, Riley. That's when he was at Michigan. People forget Georgia blew out Bama a week later. Yeah, they were good. I want Michigan winning the Big Ten to feel normal and expected from now on. Yeah, well, I don't know if you ever wanted to, you want to feel like you have a chance at winning it. I don't know if you ever want to get accustomed to like, I'm expecting to always win the Big Ten, or that's always going to happen of getting to the college football playoff. I think you need to enjoy a championship and realize how hard they are to get. Michigan went 16 years between 2004 and last year, 21, finally winning one. It's like teams that get into the NCAA tournament. Like, I got a friend. I hate to bring Michigan State into this, but I'm going to. He's a big State fan. And you know how many Final Fours that Michigan State has been to under Tom Izzo. And, this was a few years ago, but, they won their first game. It was a tough one. And then they won their second game to get into the Sweet 16. I was like, man, those are, I was talking to him after the great weekend. I was like, man, it was a great weekend of college basketball. And I'm like, you must be pretty happy. He's like, I only care, I'm expecting to get to the Final Four. These games don't even matter. It's just, I was thinking, wow, you don't even care. It's, you become, I don't know if it's spoiled that way, but as long as you're enjoying the journey along the way, I can see, Antoine enjoys checking out the recruits. These guys are for 24. I should be grinding away. Should I be putting the film on here and breaking down the Michigan recruits that they're likely to get? Not this upcoming season, but for the following season right now? We'll have time to do that. I probably should. The people like recruiting more than they like anything. Some people, I don't know if Antoine's that way, like it more than the games. Richard talking about being 15-0. It will be such a great achievement, just winning. Big Ten was always at a disadvantage playing in California or Florida for the bowl games. Yeah. I don't know why Florida, because they're playing the Florida teams. I get California to travel. They're usually playing California teams. Probably exactly what you're talking about there. Let's hit a couple more here, and then we're going to get to the best and biggest catch of the year for Michigan. But we'll get some guys that have not participated yet. Get their thoughts up here about, has this already been a great season? scratch on my watch. Neil says, the problem with Michigan recruiting is if they don't get their act together, they're not going to be able to compete regularly with OSU and Georgia. Yeah, I think everybody hears that, and that is something. There's always something, right? Andres, Big Ten is traditionally bad in bowls. Both Michigan and OSU have losing bowl records. Yeah, well, that's it. Mark is, I said it, Mark. Michigan is the most complete team in college football. Ohio State and Georgia are great teams with a bunch of overpaid independent contractors trying to work together with frequent disruptions to team synergy. Michigan is the most complete team. They play together. All right, Mark. Hey, Mark, I'll remember that. I'm going to put a little star next to it. Let's see. I just did. If we can, I could take that screenshot. They win it. I've been taking screenshots here and there. Let me make sure I try to look good for it. All right. Cheese. I really like that smell. All right. Best and biggest is what we're talking about. Catches of the season. I think we got everybody in there. Now, Mike. Beating Ohio is always great, but losing to TCU would be disappointing. Yeah. I'm with you, Mike. I think that we are all on the same page. Except Jesse. He's already donating $5 a month. He started last month. If all Michigan fans and alumni donate to a collective, Michigan would generate millions of dollars for its players. There you go. Jesse says, get out there and smack it down. Throw your $5 down to a Michigan collective that goes to the players. You know what I think? Another thing that they need to do, Jesse, I hear what you're saying. And this is before I get to the next, the biggest and the best catch, is that, so you're giving to the collective, but then you have to trust that, like, all right, they've got $1 million. What are they actually doing with $1 million? You're trusting whoever's running the collective to say, okay, we're spreading it out evenly to the team. Is that really what you want them to do? Do we know automatically that it's earmarked just for football? Like if I was giving $5 out, nothing against it, or if I was just a basketball fan, I said, look, I want this to go specifically to basketball. I don't know if you can designate it that way. That would be a nice thing to know. It'd be nice to have that cleared up. It'd also be a nice thing to know, say, look, I would just like this to go right to Donovan Edwards. I want him to get the money. I want this to go right to, I don't think you can do that because then you're getting into like, maybe you have too much power. Like, but you could advertise, you can pick the player. Can you pick just for the $5 and where you can tick it off? Maybe on the form where you're giving the money, it says just to football, just to the offensive line, somebody specific. Maybe it says on there, and they already have that. That would feel like it would make you feel more comfortable. I think sometimes, like when you're donating a charity, you're just like, oh, hey, this is great. You're going to help whatever charity, and then you're like, you read afterwards, like, yeah, they give 40% to the charity, 60% is going in their pocket. Wait a second, what's going on here when it comes down to that? All right. Best and or biggest catch of the year. We went through this 13-0 semifinal championship game. And now, before I tell you what I think the biggest and best catch of the year were, I want to remind you that this holiday season, if you're looking for something to give to the Michigan fan in your life, and that could be the one that you're looking at in the mirror, why don't you go ahead and give yourself the gift, your Santa Claus, and you're giving your own present. I like that. I like that you give your own present to yourself. It's kind of like, handing your wife over, $100 and saying, I really want these nice shoes. And then there on Christmas Day, you open up the package and it's those shoes. You gave her the $100. You're like, oh, what a great pair of shoes. This way, You give yourself the gift of the Maize and Blue Review this holiday season. You know exactly what you're getting, and you open it up today. You can get in going to MichiganRivals.com. If you look at the scroll on the bottom of the screen right now, for those of you listening on the podcast, I will read it to you because there's a good offer going on right now. You give yourself the gift of the Maize and Blue Review. You can get premium access for a full year for $22. Use the code MBR Holiday. That's MBR Holiday. All right. The biggest and best catches of the year. I've got two. I thought the biggest catch of the year was in the Ohio State game. Now, Cornelius Johnson had a 75-yard touchdown in the first half. He also had a 69-yard touchdown. Which one was bigger? You know, these are tough. He said they're all big, man. There's so many big plays, so many big catches. I will go with the first one, the 69-yard pass from J.J. McCarthy. Michigan really wasn't doing a lot in the first quarter. They were facing a 3rd and 9. The rush was coming at J.J. McCarthy as he was backpedaling, and he whipped the ball over to the left side, and Johnson was able to catch it, make a move, and then have big-time yards after catch, sprinting down the sideline for a Michigan touchdown. We all know now that broke the seal, and there would be many big plays in the game. There was another one forthcoming from Kojo. Donovan Edwards had a 75 and 85-yard big play in the second half. Loveland had a 30. There were touchdowns all over the place, big plays at Ohio State as one of the big factors in the game. They couldn't stop the gigantic plays. But to me, the biggest play of the 2022 Michigan football season was the 69-yard catch and run, Cornelius Johnson from J.J. McCarthy. Now, the Colston Loveland catch in the first quarter of the Big Ten title game, I am going with this being the best catch. So I've had the biggest. Now I have the best. And let's just take a look at it. JJ, there's two men down there. And he puts it right on him, and he goes up. Oh, what a catch. Loveland goes up, snares that one between two guys. It was a rocket, and he is able to hang on to that one right at the goal line. To me, that's going to be the best catch. And yeah, did the circumstances help that it was in a championship game in Indianapolis, that it was the first score of the game? All those things factor in. Here's a good look at it. He goes up. Oh, it was a good throw, and it was a great catch. Touchdown, Michigan. Look at this guy down here. I don't know who he is. He liked it too. He's like, woo. Oh, yeah, Loveland, the freshman. Michigan needs to go back to Idaho. Cooling him off. Gonna take a look at it one more time. Let's go. McCarthy fakes up the middle, fakes again, now throws it under the goal line. Loveland goes up, snares it at the goal line. Touchdown, Michigan. That. Colston Loveland with the TD. Yeah, it was a little disheartening for Purdue. No doubt about it. Wow. Great catch. Great throw. So for me, go over it again. Let's go over it again. I repeat myself. The best catch of the year, Colston Loveland. 25-yard pass from J.J. McCarthy in the Big Ten title game against Purdue. The biggest, Kojo. 69-yard pass from J.J. McCarthy against Ohio State. Those are the best and biggest to me. Now, what do you have? How about we go to Tim, who is bringing up an important, this is to stay undefeated. This was for Michigan to continue against Illinois on a 4th down, the catch that Brett Bielema hated because it was a a pass interference on Michigan, but Isaiah Gash, number 41, makes the catch over on the sideline after he had dropped one down there by the goal line earlier, but he came back and was able to haul that one in. You know what, Tim? That was a big catch. I'm not going to dispute that one. This is it. Like, we start having to rank them and get a top 10 list. I'm going to get my, get my notebook, but my notebook is down on the ground. So I'm going to look for another notebook. Do I have another notebook? I probably do. Or I'll just get this one. Let's get this one. There we go. There it is. Good job, Tim. Gash. I got it down. You know, let's look for some other ones about biggest and best catches. These guys are talking name, image, and likeness up there. Here's somebody talking 5 stars. Lyle Knight, Ronnie Bell, TD against Maryland. You know what, Lyle? I'm going to have to go back and I'm going to have to look and see if I can remember that one right off the top of my head. What if I put, let me see if I check the tape this way. I might be able to talk amongst yourselves. I might be able to pull it up right here. For some reason, that one's not coming to my mind. You're saying against Maryland. That was 34-27. Let's see if it's in the highlight package here. Blake Corum taking it to the house. Michigan picks off Talia. Talia finds a play. Roman Wilson snags a TV to give Michigan a double-digit lead. Blake Corum. It did not make the highlight package. Are you thinking about Roman Wilson? Or are you thinking about a different game? Let's see here. Yes. Ronnie Bell did not score a touchdown. That's why I can't remember it. Against Maryland. So maybe you're thinking of another game, Lyle. That's what we'll look for. Another one. Ooh, Richard. The best or biggest play of the year was the jump pass. That jump pass is a very interesting one to me. And I think it's a great one. The most memorable. Is it the best? Biggest? I would put biggest. I mean, that situation. Michigan going for it in that situation. And then calling upon a linebacker to throw it blind over the middle. And it worked out. I was talking about a little bit this with Scarcelli, and I don't know how you guys look at it. And there's a part about this that, we're fans. We're into it. We probably know more than most fans because we're just every, second thinking about Michigan football. And, we listen to podcasts, we watch VCasts, we listen to people break down the plays, where we know the analytics, we know all these different things. We're a much smarter fan than from 10 or 20 years ago, just in general. And then with Michigan fans, the one thing about so if things don't work, you criticize things, as a fan. And I just think about, these, that jump pass and, a couple other plays that I've criticized Michigan for in the past. And I think about this Lions season. And I think about Thanksgiving where the Lions had a 3rd and 1. And there was, was it about a minute to go on the clock? And so if you throw the ball on the 3rd and 1, this was on Thanksgiving, the Lions against the Bills, and you don't complete it, the clock stops. And that's exactly what happened. Jared Goff went back. Even though he had his receiver, he overshot him, didn't give him a chance to play on the ball at all. And you left whatever it was, 40 seconds, I don't remember exactly. It was under a minute. And so the Lions kicked the field goal to tie the game up. And people were hot because they're like, well, what if, the Bills, you've left them enough time. You left freaking, the Josh Allen of all people, enough time. And that's exactly what happened. He made a huge play down the middle of the field to Diggs. Bills kicked the walk-off field goal. They're eating turkey. And the Lions got skewered. I mean, the Jared Goff, well, you realize you can't put him in a big spot like that. That's the difference between a great quarterback and an average quarterback. Dan Campbell rolls the dice, clock management, a joke. Is ridiculous. Everything else, and there was some truth to that. He took a shot. You take your shot that doesn't work, something like that, especially when you're leaving time and you lose like that. You got to take it. And then, this past week for the Lions, you had Dan Campbell in his own end in a 1-touchdown game on a 4th and 7, faking a punt. Faking punts in your own end takes a lot of guts because when it doesn't work, but if you have the look. And, they had the look. I mean, he didn't just get 7 yards. He got like 50 yards. So it ended up being a great call. So I go all the way back. And in that game, Dalvin Cook, who, is one of the better running backs in the NFL, certainly one of the most accomplished, running backs. Still, I mean, he's a really good running back, one of the best. They ran a jump pass down on the goal line where if there's been, 50 jump passes in NFL and college football history, 49 of them have taken place down at the goal line. The only one that I ever remember taking place anywhere else was against Ohio State with Kalel Mullings, a linebacker, throwing it. And it still is just so wild to me that Michigan would put that play in. Because if it doesn't work, you say, is that really... Like, what are the chances that even comes close to working? You're putting a guy that works with the defense all year long, and you're putting him in that spot. And he even said that he couldn't see, he was blind, throwing it up there, throwing it to a spot. That seemed like a very low probability of working. And that's what, you get Dalvin Cook, you get a stutter in there. You get the ball, can get knocked away really easy. You're jumping up. I mean, how many quarterbacks, when they throw the ball, you know why the quarterbacks don't run around and jump up and throw the ball? Because it's really hard to throw a football when you don't have your feet set. And that's why running quarterbacks, because they're throwing off platform and all this. I know there's guys that are getting better at it. McCarthy's pretty good at it. And Patrick Mahomes is great at it. It used to be before Patrick Mahomes that you didn't like all this sidearm and off-platform stuff because guys couldn't throw accurate enough passes. So now you've got a linebacker jumping up in the air, throwing a blind pass in an Ohio State game. I still can't believe it, Richard. I really still can't believe it that they would, one, put that in, and two, put it in with a linebacker. I think they said, just like with that Isaiah Gash play, that they had that in for Corum. And so, these guys got no work at it. Gash, like, for a couple plays in a practice. I mean, how many? He was the 4th or 5th string running back. How many plays were they putting in practice where he could have run that one against Illinois? I don't know. I don't know how many plays. How many can we even guess? How many times would he even have been able to run that route? Are we talking about 5 times? Once? How many times did Kalel Mullings practice that? And so you're gonna put a jump pass for the first one ever outside of any goal line package against Ohio State. That took incredible. Maybe that's what you have to do. You roll the dice, and if they come up, then you're gold. But what I try to think of is like I get with the Lions, even in their own end. I mean, it's a huge gamble, but you have the look. I want to hear more from Harbaugh. How Mullings was big. He's 6'2". He can really throw the ball, but jumping up and doing it against Ohio State, that was the best play. Certainly shocking, surprising, all of that. But does it go down as one of the biggest plays, certainly. Put it on there. Doesn't matter. Anybody wants to get me talking for 5 minutes, start mentioning the jump pass in the Ohio State game. Antoine, did he like the jump pass? Michigan's a power running team. That's why it was so effective. And they know that Jim Harbaugh is super conservative. Yeah, they're expecting. And then earlier in the game, what did they do, Antoine? They ran it right up the middle with Mullings on a was it a 4th and 1 that time, or was it a 3rd and 1? I forget. Or down at the goal line. He's the short yardage back. Yeah, everybody in the stadium, everybody watching on TV, all knew that it was going to be a handoff. Certainly wasn't going to be a jump pass by the linebacker. Yeah, I mean, it worked because of that, and Michigan got lucky. I'm going to say that. I would not. I don't want them putting that in. I want, even if it's just a prize, I want kind of a higher percentage type play than that. It's hard arguing against plays that work. But in this case, I would say, like, if there was going to be any kind of other play like that, like, sure, hand the ball off to Mozzie Smith and let him throw a transcontinental. Nobody would be expecting that. Once in a while, man. Yeah, no, people are talking about the jump pass right now. It was a bad throw. I don't know. It was a good enough, like the blank saying it was a bad throw, and certainly didn't hit him in stride, because I think you're right. It would have been a TD. There were, you could complete the pass and get the first down. You could complete it and get a touchdown. Like, those are the two things that would have been positive, and one of them happened. They got it. And it'll live forever in Michigan lore. There are about 50 things that I could think of that could go wrong with a play like that. None of them did. We saw it. The next time that I saw it was just this past Sunday at Ford Field with Delvin Cook down on the goal line. You know what he did? He got the ball knocked out of his hand and he fumbled it. Can you imagine Michigan doing that? What you guys would all be saying? Why on earth would you ever even think about doing that? Antoine would be over here. Michigan got too cute. Now he likes it. I'm just kidding. Mr. Martini, the jump pass goes down as the most unlikely play call in the history of Michigan football. Let's be honest about that. Here's a what if by Mary. If Georgia were to defeat OSU and Michigan, what then? Well, what then? The SEC, Georgia has been paying their recruits for years with name, image, and likeness. They've been in first. They already have a system set up. They just get a continuation of being able to, get great players. And, if you want to recruit with the big dogs like Georgia, you better start, paying guys to come in with signing bonuses, or, it's going to be like that for Smart and company going back to back, being on top. I'm not thinking about that right now, Mary, but that's what's going to be said. There's some truth to it. Blake loved the jump pass. The coach loves the ultimate chess match. You think how hard Ohio State was playing goal line defense on normal plays? Oh, yeah. At least Todd is, he liked it, and, he's with me a little bit. Love to play, but he's never one that he wants to see again. I'm with you on that. When your receiver is open by 20 yards, it's a very high percentage play. Yeah, if you can get him the ball, but when you're asking a guy who plays linebacker to be a quarterback, and not only be a quarterback, be one that's going to jump and then throw the ball, the Michigan, you're like, sure, like you win the lottery, you say, yeah, well, look at, I played, I won. I don't know. Like I hear it. And maybe this gets back to just my my overall conservative nature when it comes to gambling or odds or predictions or whatever. I like playing Texas Hold'em. You know how many times that the worst hand that you can get is a 2 and a 7 offsuit. You know how many times I've been sitting there where it's a tournament play and I've got all these chips and I peek down at a 2-7 where I thought, let me just take all my chips and just shove them like into the middle in a super big spot. Zero. I've never thought about it. That's what Jim Harbaugh decided that he was going to do. He peeked down and said, I got a 2-7. Shove. And yeah, the other guy was in there was like the best starting hand. He had a big ace and a big king. It was like, I have you dominated. And Jim Harbaugh caught it too with the last card. Woo! What a smart play. I don't know. I'm happy it worked. I am. I don't know. Is Mary the Georgia fan? No, doesn't Georgia, of all of you guys are the defending champs? You had a walk on in Stenson Bennett the fifth. Get a lifetime achievement award to go to New York for the Heisman Trophy ceremony. And you're telling me you don't have enough dog VCast or podcast to go down there, or you got to come in there and show up on this one, Mary? Come on. Autocorrect is killing me, Mr. Martini says. Well, we're not talking about all time, but maybe I was saying is the all-time play. Elvis Gerbach throwing to Desmond Howard 4th and 1 against Notre Dame. Certainly that took a lot of guts and, them throwing it down there. But you are talking about a guy who was a great wide receiver and a great quarterback. And in, throwing the ball into the end zone, yeah, it's not the highest percentage on a 4th and 1. I get that. But that would have been like Desmond Howard going under center, splitting Elvis Gerbach out, and then having Desmond throw the ball to Gerbach, and Gerbach laying out and catching it against Notre Dame. Everybody was like, wow, I never saw that coming. Morris is, I'll give it to you like in coaching terms. He, he's getting better every day. He's, we're hoping to have him for the semifinal. Look, he played against Ohio State, and so he's got all of that time. I think he's going to play. Is he going to be 100%? I'm not really sure about that part. In a lot of this, like, I want insider information. Look, some of these, not all of the insiders, they get concrete information and they go with it. But some of these, like, here's the truth to that. Mike Morris is coming back. How much is he able to practice right now, go through full practices, participate right now? I would imagine that they're taking it easy with him right now and seeing how it responds. And then, when he gets out to Arizona game week, he ramps it up a little bit, and you got to see how it responds. I would say that, he's working towards, and the momentum is towards him playing right now. And if I had to guess that he would play, but we don't know how this looks with, the plan that he has. I have not heard that, he's just 100% go. He's all set. He's working back from that injury late in the season. He was able to get it go, which is a positive sign. He said, remember right after the game where he was in there late against Nebraska that people criticized him for, not me. But, he said, I was going to be good to go against Illinois. And then he didn't play. Oh, and then, he was just out there in a limited capacity against Ohio State. It's one of the big surprises. Michigan was able to win that and play as well as they did defensively and then have arguably their best defensive player. Status, I would say probable. How about that? Blank like the. I don't know what this means. Okay. Tendencies. Yeah, tendencies. Football is a game of tendencies. I'm with you on that. I'm not. Willow, it's about being trained. The kid wouldn't make a snap judgment like that. Great plays in the history of Michigan football. Certainly Wangler to Carter. We were talking about, and I think it's my fault because I was giving you the best and biggest plays this year, and then when it got to Mullings, I said that's one of the greatest trick plays. I think it is the biggest trick play in the history of Michigan football. And then people are just coming up with big and best plays in the history of the game, which, like I said, I've led you astray that way. I mean, there was no time. It was the last play of the game, the Wangler to Carter. So there wasn't anything tricky about that, but it was one of the best and greatest plays in Michigan history. That's true. That's for sure. And yeah, I mean, I get trick plays. I get like when they ran, they threw the ball to Donovan Edwards last year in the Big Ten title game, and he threw the pass. Like, he was a quarterback, and Mullings, can throw the ball, but the whole thing about let's have, like even if it was JJ McCarthy, let's sprint JJ out 10 yards to the right, let him throw the ball underhanded across the field for 30 yards. And let's see if he could connect with a wide receiver. He could probably do that. It's kind of this was like a circus play. A lot of things can go wrong when you're throwing off platform. A lot of things can go wrong when you are asking a guy that is not a quarterback to throw the ball. A lot of things can go wrong when you're asking a guy that's not a quarterback, that's a defensive player and has been playing there all year long to throw the ball. A lot of things can go wrong when you're a defensive player and haven't been throwing the ball all year long, and you're asking him to jump up in the air and throw to a blind spot. Crazy. Insanity. It worked. I'm shocked. Otis is saying that Blake Corum will be back by the championship game if we beat TCU. If Edwards stays healthy, we'll be fine anyways. Hopefully, we can keep the pass and run more equal. Yeah, Otis, the only thing I would add to that is that maybe Blake Corum will be back. That's not 100% sure. I mean, it's right on like the kind of the timeline where he would have a chance to be back. So, yeah, he has a chance. I'm not saying he doesn't have a chance. Would I put it? I would put it less than 50%. Like I wouldn't expect if I was a Michigan fan to see Blake Corum. There's a chance, and I know a guy wants to play in the championship game. I get that. Everybody loves Blake Corum. Yeah, everybody likes him, but there's more of a chance that he does not play. All right, it is this time of the year. The portal. I found a portal and I put it up on the screen. George Rooks, a defensive tackle, 4-star defensive tackle, becomes the 4th Michigan player to hit the portal. He joins Cade McNamara, Eric All, and Lewis Hanson. Now, you would like Rooks. It was just a redshirt freshman. You'd say, there's somebody that could get out there and could get into the 2 deep next year, and could play. But with Rooks, with the way Rayshon Benny has come on, with Mason Graham, with Kenneth Grant, he had guys younger, and then he had guys right there with him that were out into the 2 deep. And this is, if not predictable, it's understandable how somebody could hit the portal. Do you like players hitting the portal if you're a Michigan fan? Did you want Cade McNamara to hit the portal? You expected it. I think you 100% expected Cade McNamara to hit the portal. Lewis Hanson, He didn't play at all this year. And you had Colston Loveland come in as a freshman, and then you had Schoonmaker, and he just didn't look like he was fitting in. So this was 100% understandable why Lewis Hansen would hit the portal. Rooks, this is like, to me, 75% understandable and closer to 100 than it is 50. He didn't see the field much, didn't play very much. He had guys younger than him playing in front of him. It sucks because you thought maybe that he could, be something here and, be patient. And, guys it doesn't mean that when you don't play when you're a freshman or a sophomore or a redshirt freshman that you can't go on and be a star and be a big time contributor, after that. But it didn't happen for him. So understandable with Rooks, understandable with McNamara, understandable with Hansen. All's the one that's still kind of, All I just think of, and I know, he's friends with McNamara. He didn't like, maybe some of the advice that he was getting medically, and then he, was hearing some different things. Well, whatever, he's gone. He gone. But when you think about being a captain, the kind of player that he was last year, and then the way that Michigan uses the tight end, there's no better place, for all of that, to be than in Ann Arbor. So, that one, I don't know if stings a little bit, is the right word. It's a loss, not as understandable. But again, when he puts out things like, his dad, you can't handle the truth or whatever else. I don't know. Okay. We don't know what Michigan's side medically is. We know what he says. So that's what it comes down to. All right. The coach is with me on the portal. Todd saying it all must have, heard those footsteps from Loveland. No, I think it had to do with, I don't think it's that. I think it's what he had to say about, medical opinions. And hey, listening to me, listening to, Michigan's side of this, Michigan's side will be like, yeah, we were cautious. We trust our medical personnel. All side is, I was getting, the different advice and, getting different opinions. And so those things got to match up. And if they don't, you can understand why people would leave, even if you don't like it. Even when this is a perfect fit, even though when he's had an excellent career here, you get some different opinions and things aren't matching up that way. That's why you hit eject. You don't like to see it. It happens. So, and there'll be more that'll hit the portal, I would think, as we move forward. We're moving forward to tomorrow, which will be midweek. We'll come back with more Michigan football topics to discuss with you. I want to remind everybody again that we are running this special on Maize and Blue Review. You get that premium access for a full year, $22. Use the code MBR Holiday. Go to michigan.rivals.com. We will see you there on the Den. Tomorrow, we will see you here at 1 o'clock. Thanks for pushing the like button if you're watching this. If you rate or subscribe, certainly if you leave a comment, whatever podcast that you're listening to, I owe you if you do that. I look for those. You tell me if you have left a comment, because then I can tell you on this particular broadcast that I want to thank you for doing that. So thanks for all of that. Till tomorrow. Everybody have a great day. Bye.